We're going to be doing a lot more of these throughout the rest of the year. So make sure you look out for us and make sure you know what's coming up so we can continue to engage with you guys. I'm also going to do a very, very quick hello to everybody that is online right now. Welcome. We do have some Fintech Cadence members that are currently on the chat. So if you have any questions or need any support, make sure you let us know. And don't forget to put on the chat where you're from and let us know where you're listening in from. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a very easy crowd that I can say whatever to. How many of you guys know who we are? But keep in mind, you keep your hand up as a test. Who wants to tell me what we do? Come on. Because I looked at you first. This is how you think. Sorry, Chris.
Tu donnes l'opportunité à des startups de grandir dans le monde de la fintech.
Oui, absolument. Merci beaucoup pour ça. So that's exactly our main objectives. Our main objective is to advance the financial system to serve all Canadians for the better. And as Chris mentioned, we do that primarily by supporting fintech startups. We also try and focus on two other things that will serve this mission. And those two things include education. So some of you guys here have taken the fintech certificate before. Yes. Great, these three, make sure you talk to them. But we're really big advocates for fintech. We think that fintech should be integrated in academia. We think that it should not only be taught at a university level, but we should be engaging university students to bring them on and create a very healthy pipeline of talent coming into the sector. And we also work on collaboration with financial institutions, because we don't think that the ecosystem can grow strong without the direct support of the banks, of the insurance firms, of the regulators, of the government. And so that's at large what we do and what we're trying to focus on. And I didn't spend time on support because, as Chris said, if you're a fintech startup, if you're early stages, if you have an idea, if you're like, I think I have an idea, or if you're like, I'm about to close a $1 million raise, if you're in any of those categories, that's our main purpose of our organization. We're a nonprofit organization. We don't take any shares, and we don't charge anything for startups to be part of our program. So if that's something that you're thinking about or something that you want to be involved in, hopefully you think that our organization is strong enough for you to be able to connect with.
You're very good.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure the check is in the mail. I really appreciate that. And one thing to note as well, because we are hybrid, I want to let everyone know that we are, although we started in Montreal, and it's our big pride that we started in the city that gave us a chance very, very early on, we do have services that are across Canada. Because one of our biggest theses that we believe in is that you cannot build a fintech sector in Canada without doing it coast to coast. We're not competing with each other here, we're competing with the States and everywhere else. And I say that very fondly as a lover of the States. So just so that everyone here is aware of. I won't spend too much time on these things, but if you are interested in seeing or being part of our programs, whether you have a startup or you're an industry expert that just wants to get a bit more knowledge, then I highly recommend you look at some of our programs that are available online. A big component of our programs, and the reason why we're successful and why Eric very generously says we do a good job, is because we have industry experts and coaches that come from the industry specifically. We have quite a few of them here today, and I see Rita, so I'm just going to ask Rita to wait. When you work with us in these programs, the first thing that we do is we ask you to connect with some of our industry experts. Skal is also here, so we have quite a few people here. So if you are interested in becoming a mentor for our startups, please let me know. And if you're interested in doing any of these programs, please visit the websites to see what is best for you guys. But we don't only do programs, we also do events, one of which is tonight. Thank you very much, Chris. These are these founders. You guys are awesome. We also do events. So we have Fintech Drinks, which is a series that we try and do every quarter. The next one coming up is going to be taking place in Toronto. We have one coming up back in Montreal again in November. We also do university series, so that one is coming up. So if you know anyone in university, come and learn about fintech, be on the lookout for that as well. And we also do a career fair. So if you're looking for anyone to hire, or if you want a job, please make sure to be on the lookout for what we announce the next career. All good so far? You guys are still with me? Online, you guys are still with me? Somewhere somehow. Very quickly, I want to say a huge thank you to our partners for making these kind of events happen. Our first big champion partner is Louche Capital. They're running a few minutes late. They'll be joining us very shortly, and they'll be telling you about why they're supporters of Fintech Cadence, but it's really a large part of what they've been doing in the community and the ecosystem is to make sure that Fintech is being supported. So a big shout out to Louche Capital. And of course, our community partners, Queer Tech and Montreal New Tech, which are both very, very loyal and very supportive organizations as well. Make sure to check them out if you're interested in anything tech-wise or in the career community. All right. Very short announcements of some really cool things that are coming up. I mentioned it to a few people that I've been talking to. We do have a FinTech challenge coming up in October, towards the end of October, 20th to the 28th. The FinTech challenge is an open innovation competition. And so where we have different corporates that will present a challenge that they're facing, we open it up to everybody, industry experts, startups, students, anyone who wants to play around with this. Come in and work for a week and try to solve that challenge. There are cash prizes at the end of it, so it's not just for development. You do get some money out of it, and you get to build and spend a lot of time kind of working on and identifying what are some of the challenges the sector is working on right now. This is a program we're super excited about and super proud of, because quite a few of the alumni of this program have either gone on to build their own startup or have gone on to present their work in different research communities around the country as well. So very, very cool. Make sure to check it out. We also have registration forms for the challenge somewhere around here. Thank you very much. Just right there, Skyla, if you can wait. Thank you very much. So if you're interested in learning more, make sure you click on that. Thank you, Eric. One there as well, too. How many of you guys have attended the FinTech Forum before? Yeah, it's a really good conference. So if you don't know what it is, it's a conference that happens in Montreal every year. This year is taking place from the 25th to the 27th, and it's all things FinTech. If you're interested in attending, please come and let us know. We might be able to provide you guys with discounts. If you're a founder and you're interested in attending, definitely come and let us know, because we have discounted tickets for founders right now. There is also InsurTech North coming up in September around the same week, so make sure you check it out if you're interested in all things insurance. I know we often talk about insurance as being the next vertical in FinTech that's going to be really shifted, so it's a conference not to miss with a lot of content that's going on. It'll be super exciting. It's a one-day event in Montreal as well. All right, I think you guys have heard enough from me. Perfect, that was the quick spiel. So without further ado, I want to introduce a new segment that we haven't done before in FinTech Drinks, which is called Fin Spotlight. So what we've decided is there's a lot of really cool startups that are working that maybe you guys don't get a chance to see what they're doing and who they are closely. So we want to spend a bit of time at the beginning of every FinTech Drink going forward, giving those startups a bit of visibility so that you guys can see what the up-and-coming companies are and what they're doing. You're going to listen to 3 founders come in and pitch. When you're done listening to them, you're probably going to ask yourself, okay, this is really cool, but what can I do to help? So on behalf of the founders, I'm going to say, if there's anyone that you can connect them to that you think would be valuable or important for them to meet, please run up to these founders afterwards and let them know. If there's any investors, whether angel or corporate, that you think might be interested, even if they're not ready right now, but might be interested, please put these founders in front of them. And if there's any way you can support them on social media or just letting more people know who they are and what they do, then please make sure you can do that. Okay, so any introductions, any funding, or any visibility for these startups, I think you go, right? You guys would appreciate those?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I'm going to be introducing Leave, Trendigo, and Pyra. And we're first going to start with Leave, who's going to come up. Have you guys heard of Leave before? Great. Then you guys are in for a good surprise. Yes, you can clap. Yeah. I'm going to hand you the mic, Charles, and I'm going to leave it to you.
Thank you, Leo. All right. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet everyone. Hope everybody's doing great. I'm Charles. I'm one of the co-founders of Leave, and I'm head of operations. And today I'm going to tell you about our company. So I'm going to show you 2 figures in just a few moments, and I want you to keep them in mind for the rest of the presentation. All right. So 400 billion USD. What is that? That's the annual loss that retailers are facing worldwide because of friction at payment and bad checkout experiences. And 45% of the population, that's the percentage of the Quebec population that's living in a food desert. So what does that mean? It's living 15 kilometers or more away from the nearest wind service. And we'll come right to that. But first, a little bit about Leave. Who are we? Well, nice to meet you. We're the company that launched Canada's first fully autonomous store. This is a picture of the store that we launched in Eaton Center. All right, so a bit more about our products. So we have 3 main tiers of products. Swift, you can scan your products, you can pay on your phone, you don't have to ever line up or go to a checkout counter. We're also launching Bespoke and Terminal. So Bespoke is for store employees to do assisted checkout. So you can get recommendations directly to the consumer, and Terminal is for chip and PIN enablement. But the coolest thing is you can start a card on Swift and you can close it on Bespoke right at the screen. We're also supporting over 50 ready-to-go connections with payment processors and alternative payment methods. And we're also launching our new product. It's called Ever. It's an autonomous convenience store. So why are we launching autonomous convenience stores? Well, it's simple. We want to cut the cost of launching a store by 10 times, and we want to cut the cost of operating a store by 50 times. So I'm going to show you how it works. There's no sound, but you know. c'est... You'll get the gist of it. So you can walk up to a store, unlock it with your phone, shop with your phone, check out with your phone, and leave without ever having to talk to anyone. There's no one operating the store. They're just going there once or twice a week to fill up products. Okay, all right, I'm almost done. So we're closing right now our 1.2 million CAD round, and the main ask I have for you guys today, we're looking for go-to-market partners in the US. So if you know anyone in retail in the US who has good connections, like we want to talk to them, so come and see us. We're also looking for people in UX, so people who are good at designing products, so that's always good, and people who are good at website design. All right, that's everything from me. Thank you so much, everybody.
Very exciting. Great job, Charles. And
Thank you.
Up next, we have the one, the only Chris.
Thank you.
Chris is the CEO of Trendigo, and they are making mobile payments systems, and they're really focusing on simpler, more secure, and accessible to all.
Bonjour, je vous présente Trendigo. Trendigo, c'était une application de paiement qui s'est orientée vers les événements. Aujourd'hui, on fait du paiement et de la gestion d'accès. Alors, je vais vous demander juste de vous replonger dans un événement ou un festival auquel vous êtes allé il n'y a pas très longtemps. Et rappelez-vous, une dizaine de stages, une vingtaine d'entrées, plus de 50 kiosques sur lesquels on peut acheter des différentes choses, et 600 000 personnes qui viennent sur cet événement. Un organisateur d'événements, il a trois grosses problématiques à gérer. La gestion d'accès, parce qu'évidemment, il faut qu'il évite la fraude, évidemment, il faut qu'il gère l'ensemble des personnes qui arrivent à ces points d'accès. Il a géré le paiement sur place. Il faut qu'il y ait une uniformité de paiement sur l'ensemble des kiosques et qu'on puisse réconcilier l'ensemble à la fin très facilement. Il y a quelques années, il fallait entre 3 semaines et 2 mois pour réconcilier un événement comme celui-ci, à l'époque où encore on payait avec du liquide. Grâce à ce qui s'est passé avec le cashless et puis toute la dématérialisation, en 1 semaine, on arrive maintenant à réconcilier complètement un événement comme celui-là. Grâce à Trendigo, on va pouvoir réconcilier tout ça au moment où je ferme l'événement, à la minute même où il se termine. Oui, ils savent réconcilier aujourd'hui en 1 semaine ce genre d'événement, mais ça leur coûte une fortune parce qu'il faut investir dans des bornes de lecture, il faut investir dans des bracelets, des cartes, des lecteurs et un ensemble de matériel. Grâce à Trendigo, aujourd'hui, tout ça n'est fait que dans une seule application. Donc, un portail et une application qui gère la billetterie, on va lancer ça en octobre, la gestion d'accès, et le paiement sur place avec un POS intégré qui sait gérer les différents points d'accès. Alors, vous allez me dire, c'est quoi notre sauce secrète? Comment on fait ça? Parce que c'est quand même assez compliqué de remplacer directement ces éléments. Alors d'abord, on a tout misé sur la sécurité. Il n'y a plus aucun échange entre le moyen de paiement ou la personne, ou le téléphone de la personne qui vient à un événement et le commerçant. Tout se passe sur des serveurs annexes, avec des tokens qui s'échangent de l'information. On a vraiment voulu sécuriser tout ça en se basant sur le QR code EMV aux normes des cartes de paiement. C'est en plus une application qui est très facile à mettre en œuvre. Donc, vous allez sur le portail, vous vous enregistrez, vous créez votre événement et il est immédiatement accessible. Les applications peuvent être téléchargées sur n'importe quel téléphone ou tablette. La réconciliation se fait en temps réel, c'est-à-dire qu'à chaque moment de l'événement, l'organisateur peut savoir ce qu'il a vendu, où il l'a vendu, qui l'a vendu et qui est sur place. Beaucoup de données de comportement, vous l'avez compris, ça va nous aider à prévoir ce qui va se passer dans les prochains événements. On fait du paiement en closed loop, donc avec un wallet, ou en open loop avec une carte de débit ou de crédit. Et ça, c'est l'organisateur d'événement qui décide quel type de paiement il souhaite voir sur son événement. Et enfin, les applications sont personnalisables, c'est-à-dire qu'un événement qui utilise Trendigo va avoir une application au nom de son événement, avec ses couleurs, avec son logo, avec son environnement. Tout ça pour $49 par jour d'événement, plus un frais de transaction. On est à des années-lumière, des milliers de dollars qui sont obligés aujourd'hui de dépenser pour faire ça. On a un partenariat mondial avec Mastercard qui a vocation à déployer ce système un peu partout dans le monde. On est en train de regarder certains pays. Et on a fait une dizaine d'événements au Québec l'année dernière avec un peu plus de 22 000 utilisateurs. On en prévoit une centaine l'année prochaine et on a de grandes ambitions. On en prévoit 6 000 en 2026. Alors oui, c'est beau, l'horizon paraît formidable, mais il y a encore quelques obstacles à franchir. D'abord, on recherche aujourd'hui 1 ou 2 investisseurs qui vont nous aider à franchir le pas et donc à pousser la commercialisation de Trendigo aux États-Unis et en Europe. On a plusieurs salons que l'on va faire dans les mois qui viennent et on a besoin aussi d'être aidé, assisté. Et puis, on a des réseaux assez importants avec les grands événements, mais si vous connaissez des organisateurs d'événements qui ne nous connaissent pas encore, faites-leur signe, on sera ravis de les rencontrer et puis de voir comment on peut les aider à mettre ça en place. Voilà, merci de votre écoute et puis bonne soirée.
Thank you, Eric. You're excited already. Welcome to the stage, Eric from Kyra.
C'est nous. Bonjour, merci de m'accueillir ce soir. Éric McNicol, CEO et cofondateur de Kyra Technologies. Kyra Technologies, c'est de mettre dans les mains des gens la capacité de pouvoir prendre le contrôle de leurs finances personnelles. Et la différence, c'est qu'on a décidé de passer par les employeurs. Parce qu'un employé stressé financièrement, ça a un impact réel sur la performance en entreprise. Il y a une étude récente qui a été publiée que 82% des employés nord-américains se préoccupent de leurs problèmes d'argent au travail. Il y en a 23% de ces 82-là qui vont passer plus d'une heure par semaine à se préoccuper de leurs problèmes financiers. Ce qu'on s'aperçoit dans l'étude, ce qu'elle démontre, c'est que les finances personnelles, c'est la cause principale de stress au travail. C'est encore plus important que la charge de travail, que c'est aussi la santé, puis même les relations entre nos collègues. Et cette perte de productivité-là a été évaluée à 664 milliards par année juste pour les entreprises nord-américaines. Quand j'ai démarré Kyra, le chiffre était de 20 milliards en 2018. 2022, on était à 40. Fin 2023, à 50. Malheureusement, la tendance, elle va continuer à augmenter. Ce qu'on a développé, c'est la capacité d'offrir effectivement à venir la santé des travailleurs avec une solution de bien-être financier. On est la seule plateforme qui rejoint la santé financière et le bien-être au travail, tout ça dans une optique de bénéfice pour l'employeur et l'employé. Comment on fonctionne? C'est 2 volets. Il y a l'application pour les employés. On a développé un appli de coaching financier qui est alimenté par l'IA, qu'on a développé par nous. J'ai mon aide of RH ici qui est avec nous. Et on a développé une technologie sécurisée, conviviale, qui s'appuie sur l'intelligence artificielle et qui va tenir compte du contexte et de la réalité de chaque personne et les coacher dans l'atteinte de ce bien-être-là et la santé financière. Et ça permet aux employés de reprendre le contrôle de leurs finances lorsqu'ils l'ont perdu, mais surtout de garder le contrôle lorsqu'ils l'ont déjà. On s'aperçoit, la réalité d'aujourd'hui, c'est qu'il y a des gens qui géraient très bien leurs finances avant. Le contexte économique fait en sorte que tout augmente, les coûts augmentent, puis on perd le contrôle. Et ça devient à ce moment-là un problème, ça nous affecte dans notre vie personnelle, mais aussi au travail. De l'autre côté, on donne aux employeurs la capacité de non pas avoir accès à vos données personnelles, mais d'avoir un portrait de ce que des choses comme moi que je peux faire comme gestionnaire ou employeur pour mieux supporter mon équipe. Et on donne à ce moment-là des données anonymes et agrégées qui permettent à l'employeur de poser des actions très réelles et très concrètes qui vont perdurer dans le temps pour mieux supporter leur équipe. On est chanceux, on a effectivement des beaux partenaires, on a aussi 6 clients avec qui on travaille. On avait piloté avec Garda World l'année passée, c'était notre premier client. Et on vient de re-signer au mois de juillet pour 43 000 employés. Donc, on va offrir la solution auprès des 43 000 employés canadiens. On a aussi signé une belle entente avec un partenaire qui est aussi un leader dans le marché, Éric Taillon, qui est avec la CT Actuaire, qui nous aide effectivement à faire croître ce marché-là. Et on travaille aussi avec une banque en Alberta, ATD Financial, qui effectivement y croit beaucoup et qui veut apporter cette solution-là dans le cadre de l'épargne collective. Notre modèle, c'est directement aux employeurs. On travaille avec des partenaires. On est en train de regarder aussi le marché américain. On parle avec TriNet aux États-Unis, qui est un gros fournisseur de bénéfices. On parle avec des assureurs collectifs parce qu'on s'aperçoit, c'est que le besoin sort d'au-delà de juste parler aux entreprises. Si on veut effectivement croître plus rapidement, ça nous prend des partenariats qui vont avoir un accès à beaucoup plus d'entreprises. On est une équipe de jeunes, gris, mais avec qui on y croit beaucoup. On s'est lancé dans le vide, on y croit énormément. J'ai ici avec moi quelqu'un qui est là depuis 3 ans, là, cette semaine, presque. Louise, qui est du côté du marketing et de la communication, qui nous supporte dans les ventes. On vient du domaine financier, on a plus de 80 ans d'expérience, ça ne nous rajeunit pas. mais on a travaillé dans la mise en place de solutions innovantes financières dans les grandes institutions financières, puis la gestion du risque. Avant de parler de ce qu'on veut faire, on est effectivement, ce qu'on s'aperçoit, c'est que le besoin est réel. Le besoin ne change pas. Le contexte économique, il ne va pas changer demain. Ça reste de plus en plus difficile pour tout le monde. Et il y a même une étude qui est sortie l'an dernier, 97% des employeurs se disent responsables de mettre en place des solutions de bien-être financier parce que ça fait partie de leurs besoins et ça vient les aider. Et il y a 74% des employés qui disent que maintenant, qu'ils vont rechercher un employeur qui vont offrir des solutions comme celle-là parce que ça devient nécessaire. Pour nous aider, pour justement augmenter la croissance et la portée du marché, on demande une levée de fonds. Le but, c'est de nous donner des leviers parce qu'on est une petite équipe de 7, mais on s'aperçoit qu'effectivement, le marché est énorme. Donc, si jamais vous connaissez des gens, des investisseurs ou des partenaires, des entreprises qui ont envie de sauter puis de supporter leurs employés, venez me voir, ça me fera plaisir de vous parler. Merci.
Amazing. How cool was that? Very cool. Thank you. I like that energy because that's what we're doing. All right, guys. So before we get into the panel, I do want to take a quick second to thank one of our big sponsors of Fintech drinks. Before I bring them up, I do want to say that they're one of the first companies in the early stages that really believe in Fintech Cadence as an organization. And why that's really indicative of what they believe in is because all the work that we've been doing is to build the ecosystem. And so it's in their DNA to help and support the ecosystem for the very, very early stages. And you can see that not only with the work that they do with us, but the work that they do with the startups as well, and a very, very fire portfolio of startups, I may say so, as well. So without further ado, I'd love to bring up to the stage Mr. David Nolt of Luge Capital.
There is no better organization to help build the ecosystem than Fintech Cadence. So I think you and your team deserve and we absolutely love them. That's why we're here. We're a fintech fund. We have $8 million under management, about 28 portfolio companies, one called Flinks, which we backed here in Montreal, which had a nice little exit. So we're a team of people that have been in your shoes before and built companies. It takes a village to raise a startup. I encourage you guys to kind of help each other. All companies start small. My partner in the back came from PayPal. PayPal was once a very small company. I was at Nuvei. Nuvei is the biggest IPO in Canadian history. Phil started alone. So everybody starts small. But yeah, we're here. We're about to close a fund too. Don't tell anybody. But we're going to announce that shortly. And so yeah, we invest in early stage companies, seed A, and great founders changing financial services. We've got a bunch of investors that invested in us, which are also financial institutions that we try to collaborate with and encourage our portfolio companies to work with. So that's it. Please reach out to our team, Laviva, Rohan in Montreal, GP in Montreal. We got a team in Toronto. My partner Kareem, Christina, who just moved from Ukraine and is running things for us in Toronto. So if ever you're there, reach out to the team, reach out to us, and looking forward to seeing you guys keep growing. Thank you very much.
And just so that they don't think they can get away with it, if Kareem, you can wave. I can't see the rest of your team, but they're here today, so make sure you go and wrap them.
Rohan here in Montreal. Just joined us. I get GP. That's trying to get himself to here. You guys probably, most of you know Laviva.
Yes.
So she'll be here in a couple of minutes, and so will Christine.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David.
Yep.
And to the Luge Capital team. How are you guys feeling? Ready to hear panel?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah? Wonderful. How many of you guys have heard of influencers before? How many of you guys have TikTok? Oh, really? 2 people? Okay. We are all in for How many of you guys have heard, before you saw the advertisement for today's session, how many of you have heard of Finfluencers? Okay. How many of you guys follow Finfluencers? Okay, not bad, not bad. Very, very interesting. So you guys are in for a treat today. Today, I'm very, very excited to be able to welcome the panel that's about to be introduced to you guys. We're going to be talking about Finfluencers and how they're impacting the financial sector. But why that's super relevant to founders in the ecosystem in general is because we know that if you're a startup and you're working on B2C, or if you're a B2B2C company now, especially with the way that the direction investment is going, you really do need to understand your consumers. And one way consumers are getting or interacting with financial services, not only advice, but financial services in general, are through these influencers and through social media. So we're very, very excited to be able to touch on a topic that we don't spend too much time talking about, just to start understanding what does the other world look like and how does that really impact fintech itself. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome onto the stage Mr. Eric, who you've already heard, founder and CEO of Cairo.
And I'm not a Finfluencer.
Ashna, who is a content creator and product manager of Saffron, and also the best tag I've ever heard. Oh my gosh, no. Okay, and I'd also, you can come onto the stage, Ashna. I'd also like to welcome Kareem, who is the CEO of Dulcedo. Okay, I did practice and I messed up.
Awesome.
Welcome to the stage, the panel. Give him a big round of applause. Good. How are you guys doing? Good. Look at this lovely crowd that we have. Excited to get into it. Before we do, Eric, we already did an introduction with you, so we're going to give you a chance to take a breath. But Ashna and Kareem, why don't we do a quick round of introductions so that they can learn this here.
Sure. My name is Ashna. I'm a content creator based in Toronto. I primarily am on TikTok, so none of you, it seems like, have ever seen you before. That's okay. I also recently launched Saffron, which is a membership community for women, very new, 160 members from 10 countries, which is very exciting. And then I like to say on the side, I'm a senior product manager for a media company based in London.
And you also have 20,000 followers on TikTok, if I'm not mistaken.
100.
That was a test. 100,000 followers on TikTok. No pressure for anything that you really say. And Kareem, do you want to do an introduction?
Sure. I launched a little startup 15 years ago that turned out to be quite successful in the fashion industry. We started as a modeling agency. We pivoted towards influencers in 2016 as one of the first Canadian talent management agencies giving professional representation services to influencers just like Ashna. And today our company has grown into the largest in Canada, and we're a top player in North America as well. And we work with celebrities, content creators, influencers, and still we do modeling. And we work with people from all walks of life and all different content verticals. So it's interesting to see how the industry is moving forward and cross-secting with fintech nowadays. So
Modeling and fintech, it's only a matter of time.
absolutely.
Perfect. All right, guys, so let's get into it. A recent report by MNP indicated that only 15% of Canadians consider themselves to be financially literate. What, in your opinion, are the ramifications of this trend, both from an institutional perspective, so the banks and everything, and from a consumer perspective? Do you want to start with you, Eric?
Yeah, but on my side, what I'm seeing is being a father with a daughter of 20 and a son of 27. What I'm seeing is, we are seeing that people are getting information way outside of the financial industries. They need to, because at one point they are trying to find a kind of semblance of something that makes sense for them. Banks have, in the past, published lots of content, difficult to digest, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why they're trying to find information that makes sense and relevant.
And Ashton, from your perspective?
From a consumer perspective, I always find the term financial literacy very interesting. I kind of wonder, because I think if you ask 10 people, 10 Canadians on the street, they would all define what does it mean to be financially literate quite differently. So I think I'm also curious from that angle, how much pressure. I think people think, the average Canadian thinks that finance is a very complex thing. And I think that they actually know a lot more about finance than most people think that they do. So I just think that there's so much opportunity to make finance less complicated and less scary. So I think that's where that financial literacy component, I'm very curious about how they did that study and what did they actually ask people. And so, yeah.
That's an excellent point. Kareem, how about yourself?
I think for institutions, fintech and financial literacy can impact them quite greatly. Financial illiteracy is definitely linked with, feelings of not being as well. So well-being or financial literacy affects well-being. And I think for institutions, it translates into potentially financial defaults as well. So the more consumers are illiterate, the more they're going to face bankruptcy, personal bankruptcies, or personal illiteracy. So unfortunately, financial illiteracy leading to bad habits. So it's kind of like a bad cycle feeding itself. So the more you educate the population, in my opinion, the more institutions are going to find a healthier marketplace for everyone.
And just to get a good analysis of the, because we do have a bunch of consumers here, but how many of you guys would say we are financially literate? I know this is a very biased crowd, but it's okay, there's no follow-up. Literate. Okay, perfect. All right. How many of you guys think about your personal financials all the time? Interesting to see, and interesting to see kind of where you guys are at with all of it.
And something even in our data, we're seeing that people people are using our platform. Almost 60% of those are living paycheck to paycheck. So is that because they don't exactly know what to do, how to manage their money, or it's something else? But we're seeing that there's a gap somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting you say that. I just saw in the Logic they released that Justin Trudeau released the cost of living plan. I haven't read it yet, but very interesting to see as well. Yes, I can't go further against it, but it's interesting to see that because sometimes it is also how the economy and the systems are built.
There's a mix of both.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a controversial one. I'm going to say it's controversial, but it might not be super controversial question around, is it the responsibility of financial institutions and fintechs that are building consumer products to educate their consumers on how to use, not only to use their product, but their financial health as well in the long term? And Ashley, you want to start?
Sure. Yes. I think I kind of think about it in terms of like medication. I think you have, as a pharmacy or a big pharma company providing medication, you have to share all the side effects of your product because there are so many potential side effects. I think with financial fintech companies, people are putting their money with you, and there's a lot of side effects of opportunity cost of what they could do with their money in other places. So I think there's definitely a responsibility from the company side to educate people on what they're doing and where they're putting their money.
Kareem or Eric, do you guys want to jump in?
I think it's everyone's responsibility to in the industry to educate consumers. I also think the academia also has a large part of responsibility in there, or current lack of such things. So yeah, definitely, I think there's a lot to gain also with an educated population for those fintech companies that are in the industry. The more educated the population, the more they're going to try to seek out tools and options that can help them increase their financial literacy and also improve their financial situation. So yeah, definitely, I think the stakeholders in the industry have everything to gain to educate the population.
I would say yes, but I work in a bank here's a product detained by customer, and then that's, I think at one point that's one of the issue is, are they always thinking about the best thing for the customer? They're not selling something that won't make sense, but at the same time, they're evaluated by the number of products and the number of services that each user or customer had in the bank. Well, I think also that's one of the responsibility of a bank is it shouldn't be the only reason why they are trying to work with a customer or a client. And it's also something that should be also important for a Finfluencer at one point.
That can educate the consumer on what they're about to do, or they're about to make a purchase. Maybe there's a pop-up that says, hey, this is going to have this or that impact on your personal finances. So I find all of the education pieces are going to play a large part in people's lives in the future.
Absolutely. And so then, I think it kind of say why are consumers then thinking, okay, instead of going to my financial institution or these fintechs that are building these products to learn more about financial services, why am I going to an influencer? Why am I actually engaging with online social media techniques to learn more about what's really the financial services like? Yeah. So whoever wants to start with that.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's a relatability factor of a content creator. Like, also I'm a woman of color. I think there's a safety of people coming to me, especially my audience are women of color, it looks, someone talking about finance feels safer to them. There's a relatability element. And there's also just, I share a lot of content about my entire life. And people see that I am, you know, a woman who's just living her life, but I also have knowledge about finance. And I can tell you what the difference is between an RSP and a TFSA. These are just basic things that I think a lot of people don't even want to think about and kind of think are just like require research and a lot of heavy lifting. And I think if you can meet people where they are, and a lot of people are on TikTok, there's that knowledge that they can get there. So it's really just the relatability and I think the easiness of it that is very approachable.
Yeah, I'll support Ashna by saying that definitely accessibility has a big part of it. So people in our news feeds are gonna get to us first, you know, before we even pop the TV open. Most of us are popping up the phone on our favorite social networks. So definitely Finfluencers, to call them that way, are you know, easy to digest, accessible education pieces that are out there. But beyond all of that, I think the biggest appeal to education for influencers is the trust aspect of it. It's someone relatable that you can trust, that is passing information that is likely to be true or impactful in your life, versus taking information from other sources that might be biased by either marketing dollars or other kinds of incentives. So I think trust is a big part of why people get their information from them.
That's also, but for me, that's also one of the scary parts. Because I look into some of the influencers that were in the list, and some of those are saying, yeah, that's the best product, Amex is the best product for that type of population. But one thing is not always totally clear is they're sponsored. And my line is, where do we cross that of, yeah, saying that that's the best product because I'm receiving money for that, versus it's the best product because even if I wasn't sponsored, I would talk about that product. And that's the line where I'm seeing, it's scary. And at the same time, I have a daughter of twin. We celebrate our anniversary this summer. And one of her friends, we were eating. And at the same time, she said, hey, Laurence, you should have a credit card. And I saw in the web, and you get the credit card, you pay with that, and you only pay the minimum every month. That's the way you build your credit. And we're all around the table and say, oh shit, what's that? and that's the way she saw it. She was trying to convince my daughter that that's the best way to do it. And I said, no, that doesn't make sense. And that's the part where I'm saying, yeah, it's very important because what you're doing, it makes sense. At the same time, they're a line where an advisor in the bank wouldn't say that because it would be kind of prosecuted by the AMF. So we need to make sure at one point that we're accountable for the information we're providing. Yeah, it's important to talk about what we live in our life, but some of those people are not going to get to the end of that and find the right information, and they're going to say that that's the best one. I'm going to talk about all of that with my friends, and I'm going to put all of them in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's from a father perspective.
Yeah.
No, these are also.
And I definitely won't contradict you on that. I think, you know, for sure you have to watch out for your sources of information, just like going on the wild web and, you know, finding a blog and you don't know who's behind that blog. And I think credibility goes a long way, just like Ashna's got a really good credibility. So you have to research who you're following and the information that person is likely to give you. And I think, you know, proper ethical influencers are going to disclose when they're paid, you know, to promote something as well. And in fact, it's a rule in Canada, so they have to disclose it. So I think that goes a long way, but I can't talk about word of mouth in a negative way because it's the oldest way to spread information, right? So good things pass through word of mouth, and the new age word of mouth is influencers.
Yeah.
I'm not against it, though. No.
We'll talk after.
Evangelize them.
I think there's just larger social commentary on like giving everyone a voice. There's cons and there's pros to it, and it's just kind of natural with there's going to be misinformation, but there's also so much good where people who would never have a voice get to have an opportunity to share. So you have to take the bad with the good.
My question for you, and if someone says something that doesn't make sense on your thread or in your conversation, are you going to say, hey, don't listen to that doesn't make sense, or you're not interacting with those that even if it's not true, they're not acting on that, and that's the part I'm kind of scared as a father, but also as a fintech company.
Like if I post something.
No, it's someone interacting with.
Oh, with my
so, yeah, exactly.
And well, I find if you're the person posting the content and you have people arguing with you, usually you're still the place of authority because this is your house where someone is coming.
Yeah.
So you still have that authority there. But if someone is rude to me, I just delete it.
So we do have a question from the audience, so we haven't forgotten about you, those online. And we mentioned, Kareem, you started off by talking about trust. So I'm gonna ask you guys here as well. The question is around trust implies a fiduciary duty. Do influencers have a fiduciary duty to their viewers?
Well, I think so. That's from the agent perspective. So for sure, when we partner with content creators or influencers, we go through a pretty hefty vetting process. There's also a question of like a history behind them as well that we back check and all of that. So for sure, as a consumer, they should go through that same rigorous process. But unfortunately, the algorithms just suggest anyone, and we don't know if that person necessarily has that kind of ethical fiduciary duty that they follow through on. But typically speaking, I think that in my experience working with some of the top content creators in North America, they take their position very seriously and they're really committed to what they do, and they understand the level of responsibility that they have in having such a powerful voice, and most of them use it very wisely. Of course, there's always those wild horses that put out garbage and it gives, other influencers, let's say, a bad rep. But at the end of the day, celebrities have always been around, and this is just a digital version of it. So yeah, I think those people do have a duty, and most of them are aware of it.
Which is very interesting because I don't want to parallel too many things, but 2 points I want to bring up around this conversation of trust as well. There were a lot of celebrities that were pushing NFTs and cryptocurrencies, and those were the ones that often had a very, very bad reputation. So there is that to talk about. There's also, not in the finance world, but in the psychology world, there's a lot of influencers who are talking about psychology and mental health and how do you improve your mental health. And a lot of psychologists have come out actually and have said, a lot of this stuff is not true. We don't know where they're getting this information from. And they might have, I don't know if they're millions, but they have quite a significant number of followers. So how do you, as a consumer, look up and say, well, what is good credibility? How do I know? I mean, and Ash, I don't want to put you on the spot because you're the only real life influencer we have, but in general, how do you know if somebody is actually credible in what they're saying?
I mean, from my perspective, I think I am always so cautious about, I can only speak from my perspective. So anytime I put any type of financial content out there, it's like very rigorously researched. I think, to be honest, there's like this, any type of content, whether it's financial or mental health, there's just that risk there. And I think just as like, it's very recent where, Kareem was talking about you have to disclose that things, if it's a paid partnership. I think there will be more technology coming to social media that is like fact checking. Like Twitter has some of that technology, X has some of that technology, so.
Is it still there anymore?
Yeah. So I think that is coming, but I mean, like, I can only like speak from my one person perspective. It's, like Kareem was saying, I take it very seriously. And I post very intro level factual content. I don't give investment advice because my goal is never for my particular audiences to give them investment advice, but just have them. A lot of people don't even think about their finances. My audience are the people who are scared to check their credit card statement because they don't want to see the number. So, I think I talk to a different group of people, and there's just I take the responsibility.
Yeah. I just add that I think that especially the younger generations, Gen Z and the younger millennials in general, use the internet as a form of discussion. So you're for sure always going to find very radical opinions and very different opinions, quite a variety of it. But I also think those generations build a native, intuitive fact-checking for themselves, being in a sea of information to sort of develop that, sense of filter for yourself. Unfortunately, not everyone has such a, refined one, so there's definitely a risk for people out there. But I think generally speaking, the younger generation definitely, can swim through that and can tell, sorry to use the word, but like crap from not, you know? Yeah.
I think that's the nicest word. There's a bit of leeway there. And Eric, from a fintech perspective, how do you view that?
What I'm seeing is, at one point is, so you said, and I what I'm doing is, you're talking about simple things that people are in fear of finding out. The FOFO is something real that we are seeing people not want to look at the statement or the bank account and saying, yeah, everything's going to go well tomorrow because we're going to address all the sell by miracle. At the same time, those people you're saying about Gen Z and other, I'm not sure they are as, they're not going as deep as they should to validate information. And I'm not only talking about the circle around my daughter, but what I'm seeing is sometimes they're going to take the text as it is without going to validate. And that, at one point, when you get older like me, but even younger than me, people tend to see, okay, there's crap, and that's real fact. But there's a place where at one point they are taking that as fact. And as a fintech founder, we're trying to bring something that's going to make sense, not trying to sell them anything, but trying to at least educate them, bring them simple things that they can digest and act on it. And that makes sense for me.
Just to maybe a last piece of it, but I totally agree with you, Eric, and I think, you know, it is a big opportunity for fintech apps, such even as banking apps, to have a component of artificial intelligence that said, hey, look, a pop-up, we've recently heard that this thing online is getting, you know, thrown around, and that's actually factually incorrect. So to give that information proactively and keeping a digital ear out to what's being said. Yeah, exactly. Why not?
No, that's a great suggestion. And I have to say, I've never heard of FOFO before.
Fear of finding out, yeah, FOMO and FOFO is
FOMO I've heard.
FOFO is real, fear of finding out. And we're seeing people living paycheck to paycheck. That's what they're doing. They're not going to the bank account. They hope that things going to go well at one point, and it doesn't go well.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Before I continue with my questions, does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, Tony and then Mama.
My question is more for Ashton. Given that you're a content creator, like when you're starting with a passion, with a mission to do something great. However, there comes a threshold. Right now, you're at 100,000 followers. You get 1 million, 2 million. Does it come to a point where you have to create content for the sake of creating content just to stay in the loop? And also, when the sponsors come in, how true will you stay? And like, how do these influencers keep true to their cause, to their initial mission?
And Ashna, sorry, before you answer that, I'm just going to repeat the question because the audience can't hear online. So if you don't mind, so the first part of the question is, honestly, the first part of the question is, you started off saying you're really passionate about this and that's why you're doing this, but what continues to drive the passion after you've reached 100,000 people? Are you creating content for the sake of creating content? And two, when sponsors come up to you and ask you to post some of their stuff, how do you evaluate how much of that you want to push forward? And how do you make that decision of, yes, I'm comfortable to stand behind this sponsor or not? Did I capture that? Perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, content creation is like a mini media company. So I would ask any founder here, you know, you have 10 million in revenue right now. When you get to 100 million in revenue, are you going to change who you are? Are you going to change your belief in yourself? Like, content creators are just mini media companies. And I think there's a change happening where they're kind of seen as just like, you know, people who just want attention and just want to like put themselves out there. And I don't mind the attention, but you know, being a content creator is being like a little, like I said, putting together a little media company. So there's just as you start your companies with a belief of who you want to reach and what you want to do, I start my content with the belief of my audience, and my audience are my customers in a sense. So, you know, just as I think a B2B focused company, maybe you wouldn't take a B2B client that asks you to change your entire integrity of your whole company. I the same way maintain that because, you know, it's a business, same way your business is a business.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Good, Tony? No,
Yes. Don't you think that it's the government job to teach people how to act with their money? And there's a job for people like you to get money from the government to influence people and do the right thing.
How closely do you work with them?
I mean, I can jump into it for this one and say, but I think the government has been using influencers more and more. We saw it through COVID, where they came to us with a budget to spread, awareness about it and all of that through the voice of the, largest content creators out there. So I think the government's onto that track. Are they up to speed in terms of understanding, the full potential of it to spread their awareness on things? And should they use it for financial literacy? Absolutely, I think so. But yeah, the budgets are hard to get, especially for, as she said, mini media companies. Typically, the government will work with larger scale media companies and go through a very rigorous vetting process to choose who they work with. So, but I think that's going to change with time, and they're going to definitely tap into that.
I think it's a shared responsibility. I think it's definitely the government's job, it's the consumer's job, but it's, it's a business's job as well. And I think if everyone takes their shared responsibility to educate, then it's just going to be great for the economy and for the consumer, and for business.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have an idea of the age distribution of the followers, like young, very young, like teenagers, young adults. Well, what's the percentage? Just curious.
Yeah, so my percentage is like my personal audience. I mean, any content creator can see the back end of their demographics. Mine are young adults, 20 to 35.
I'm really glad you said young adults at that.
What is a young adult?
Yeah. I'll take it.
Young to adult, yeah.
Amazing. Yes.
I have to balance because there are no questions coming from this.
Yeah, I noticed. Is it because our backs are to you guys? I'm sorry. Here we go.
So my question is anybody concerned about artificial intelligence replacing humans in this whole industry of content creation and social media influencer?
Perfect. And I'm just going to repeat that for the audience online. Is anyone here on the panel concerned about how AI is going to play a role with impacting the future of content creators and how content creators are going to develop?
Yes.
Oh, I'm getting with that first. I think everyone's concerned whether or not AI is going to take their jobs, right? It's no different for content creators. But I mean, to a large degree, people are always going to flock towards what's organic. And what resonates with us. But we're seeing some cool stuff out there where artificial intelligence accounts are getting heavily followed. So, they're entirely AI generated content, captions, the whole thing. You're basically following a virtual entity. But that's no different from chatting with ChatGPT, is it? So I think people want substance, and that substance is still found in the organic minds of human beings, at least for now. And I can't see AI taking over as top shelf on that playing field, at least not for the immediate foreseeable future.
Yeah, I don't see AI replacing anyone anytime soon. I definitely see it superpowering, like the creative process, the admin process. I think AI will actually allow a lot of creative, or a lot of just fields to focus on more strategic thinking. And because it frees up a lot of just like admin work that people do, so from a creative lens and content, I like to sometimes I use AI to, if I need a new phrase for a script that I'm writing, I'll ask ChatGPT to give me a few examples or a few different variations of something. So I don't really see it replacing me, but helping me.
From a fintech perspective, say we're using ChatGPT to inspire ourselves of content to provide to our users, but we're talking with banks and they're not ready yet to let ChatGPT interact directly with the user. Then I would say we'd be surprised in the short term that banks and even fintech we're going to let that directly interact with the users, with their own data and financial. So that's the threshold for now. Yeah, we're not seeing it going to press those.
That's very interesting. I think from our perspective, I mean, we started to see a lot of pitches where people will come up to us and say, well, we're going to be the ChatGPT for investment or the ChatGPT for X, Y, Z. So it is very concerning that that's the process. But I think that's part of innovation, right? Some are concerning, some are moving forward, some are just kind of staying stagnant. So I appreciate that perspective from the fintech side. Any other questions?
Another question from this side.
Yay! Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you have observed among your audience any interest in or growing interest in getting more insurance literacy, lead literacy?
Some insurance literacy?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Humania. They're an insurance company. Thank you, Laura. The question was, have you guys seen interest from your content, from your audience, requesting information about more insurance product and insurance literacy?
I mean, no one has directly said to me, I want to learn more about insurance, but there has been just a lot of interest about every time I post a basic video on what is investing, I think there's definitely interest of learning more. So that's a good thing I've just seen from, I can speak from my experience just from my own audience. I speak really high level, and there's interest more like, okay, well, what's the difference between, a mutual fund and an ETF? Like, tell me more of the differences. So I do think there is this capacity to learn and this interest that people want to learn about things like insurance and investment opportunities that I just don't think people have seeked out on their own. It's a bit overwhelming to Google how to invest,
And I think what I do think is interesting in that parallel is that insurance is one of the verticals that are that really being pushed right now under fintech. And kind of spoke about it very quickly with the InsurTech product, but I think insurance is really geared for a big shift on how things are being provided. So definitely something that might eventually reach consumers when it's broken down. So yes, Rita.
Actually, a more like down to earth question. If you're a fintech and you're looking to work with influencers, what should you look for, and what's the best way to proceed? How do you go about finding the right people, influencers to work with you as a fintech company?
Me
or
all three of you?
All three of you.
Yeah, sure. I think the best way to go about it first is understanding the demographics and the consumer DNA that you're going after. Once you clearly identify that, I think it's an exercise of finding qualified, credible influencers that have in their audience the type of consumers that you're looking for. That's not an easy process, and the best way to go about it, honestly, is good old research, or to deal with an agency like ours, where that's our expertise to cast and find and negotiate with those creators. However, doing it yourself is a matter of just opening up the platform, looking at suggestions, sometimes going online and typing on Google like the top 10 best, Finfluencers right now, and you'll get tons of lists that you can go through. So it's not rocket science to find them. But yeah, I think aligning your audience with their audience is probably the best way that I would suggest.
Yeah, and I think there's sometimes this like surface level desire to just say, okay, this person has this many followers, they're based in Canada, add them to the list. And I think if you're really looking to make impact and have your company resonate with a creator who is posting, like look at the engagement, because sometimes a creator will get a lot of views, a lot of people will see what they're saying, but there's no real like engagement or interest in the comments you can see. So I really try to understand does the audience of the creator have a relationship with that creator? Does it seem like there's trust there? And I think also when you end up partnering with a creator, there's a tendency for brands to want to have this creator regurgitate their messaging. And you came to a creator because you want to reach their audience. You have to let the creator talk to their audience in a way that is natural for them, because then you just hire anyone. Just hire anyone to speak and then get a sponsored ad out there and have it seen to everyone. So if you want to work with an influencer or someone with an audience, you have to let them speak to their audience in the way that is most natural to them. And I think that is the part where it requires, it's the hardest part of it. I think the job for me is finding that balance where a brand wants me to just say a bunch of facts and messaging, and I'm just going to say, this is an ad. This is not going to seem natural. No one's going to watch it. So it's finding the balance there.
And from a fintech perspective, have you guys looked at?
When we tried when we were still B2C or transition between B2C and B2B, we weren't successful at that time. From a B2B perspective, still trying to find the right place and the right people to talk to. So we're still looking into it.
Okay, perfect. So you guys are questions. I love it.
Okay, that side.
Could you talk a little bit more on what's kind of the ideal partnership with a brand, with a big bank, for example? How does that align kind of come to fruition? And obviously there's a lot of inbounds coming in. So if you guys had to speak to, this is the best way that we would like to work with big financial institutions, what could that potentially look like?
Well, I think it would depend on what the financial institution's goal is. Is it brand awareness? Is it getting, footsteps in the front door of the shop? Or is it to convert the consumers to some kind of purchase or something? So I think first underlining that goal and, underlining that goal, and then proceeding to activate in a way that's going to meet that goal with the influencer. I think brand awareness is a low-hanging fruit that's quite easy to activate with influencers. And there's other goals that are maybe require a little bit more creativity. I think, going about it in a very organic way where it's not necessarily like, hey, here's our product, come and meet us, but it's more something indirect where the bank is doing something positive for the community, either through education, and then you're raising awareness for that specific initiative, which is tied to the brand. That would probably be the most effective way, in my opinion.
Perfect. So I'm being very politely told that time is up. So before I get killed, I'm just going to ask you guys one last question. What fintech is keeping you interested, I guess, or what's the fintech that you guys are most working in? Other than Cairo, of course, which is all of our. That's what I was trying to go with. But what's the fintech that you're very interested in right now?
That's a tough question.
Do
Yeah.
you want to go around?
Yeah,
Actually, okay,
go,
let's go
yeah.
with Kareem. Do you have one?
Well, I love investment apps, so kind of like how Robinhood shook up traditional banks. I think there's other tools out there that are like that really excite me because there's a whole plethora of gamification that can be added to it. I saw this other app, I forget the name, I'm sorry, but they reward their users with different tiers of levels based on how literate they are in their financial knowledge. And the actions that they pose in terms of their management of their own finances. So that reading that online really resonated with me, and I'm really into that.
Thank you, Kareem.
I don't know if you could classify Wealthsimple as a startup anymore. They're quite big now, but I've been they're no longer startup. But I've just been personally a Wealthsimple consumer for from the beginning. It was the first investment account that I opened on my own. Their blog is excellent. I've learned a lot from their blog. So I'm just a big fan of companies similar to Wealthsimple who can speak really plainly to consumers. And I think I owe a lot of my just journey to financial literacy and journey to investing and understanding to a platform like Wealthsimple. I remember playing with Questrade and then saying this Wealthsimple is so much better. I think that just being able to create simple experiences and UX focused experiences for consumers goes really far.
Coming back to on my side, I'm more interested in looking at apps or solutions that are providing wellness. We inspire ourselves from apps from sport, yoga, and even weight loss. So for me, those are inspiring because they are approaching life, the fear of missing out or fear of finding out that you need to change some stuff in a way that we're going away from a bank perspective and trying to resonate more with the human in us. So that's kind of the thing we're focusing and trying to inspire ourselves, building our tool.
That's a nice way to end. So Kareem, Ashna, Eric, thank you guys so much. I'll be hanging around for a little bit. So if you want to ask them any follow-up questions, you guys can go ask them. I want to thank you guys for being very engaged in the conversation. We've never really looked at the way Finfluencers can impact fintech, so it's really exciting for us as a team to be able to bring this topic to light. Just a few quick reminders. There is food. I hear there's alcohol. I hear there's non-alcoholic drinks as well, so please help yourselves. The team will be around here supporting. For everyone online, thank you very, very much for listening to us and for engaging with us on the questions. Thank you for that angle, Karina. We look forward to seeing you guys at our next event. Quick reminder, our next event is being held on October 18th in Toronto. That topic is going to be around PropTech and how PropTech is influencing, I'm stuck on the word influencing, and how PropTech is helping Canadians have better access to home ownership. And how fintechs can affect home ownership. It's basically PropTech. So that's happening on October 18th, and the November 1 as well, we'll be doing the wrap-up of your fintech event. Don't forget to register for the FinTech Challenge if you are interested in learning more. We have an information session coming up next Wednesday at 12 o'clock, Montreal time, virtually. And last but not least, I'm also being told to let you guys remember, we do have feedback forms that are available next to the bar, right there as well. And being pointed out, it's really, really important for us to hear your guys' feedback. It takes less than 5 minutes, I promise. So if you guys don't mind, before you leave, please just scan it, fill out your feedback, let us know how we can improve and level it up. Because this event is for you guys. If you guys are not happy, there's no point in us doing it. So I really appreciate you guys coming here. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be here until 7, and then have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you guys very much.